Will annual passes ever return to Disneyland and or Disney World? That's the question we're talking about on today's podcast.
We are waiting. I know that a lot of folks are waiting and hoping that these passes will come back and make a full return, but it's anyone's guess on whether or not they really are going to make an appearance.
So this is an article on Fool.com, which is the Motley Fool, and it kind of talks about if Disney is ever going to bring back annual passes, and it lays out kind of a path for them not bringing them back and why they won't bring them back.
So like an opinion.
An opinion, yeah. This is just an opinion. This is not anything news or anything inside information. This is just an opinion on a financial basis of why they won't bring them back.
Oh, this is heavy on the numbers?
Yeah, it's heavy on the numbers.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to follow, but I will try.
Well, if you think about it, annual passes are a way to raise revenue, right? Because people buy annual passes, they're locals, they go more often, they buy food, they buy merchandise. It's a way for them to raise revenue if need be.
So it's like a way for, how awesome is that, though? Like, you're local, you're like, hey, I'm going to go to Disneyland for the night.
Exactly. Yeah. And this article says that's exactly why they won't be returning. Okay. As you know, last year in August, they released annual passes again after them being away because of the pandemic for a while. A lot of those passes that people bought in August are up for renewal at the end of August. September 1st is the new year for that. And August 31st, a lot of them are up to expire. But Disneyland and Disney World hasn't said a word about how people can renew or if they can renew or if they are going to be able to do that at any time in the future, which is kind of odd because it's the mid-August now.
Right. You would hope that somebody would know.
At least send you an email saying, hey, listen, we know your annual pass is about to expire. Sit tight. We'll have news for you this date.
All right. So going into this article, what are they basically saying?
They're saying the entertainment giant is making too much money at Disney World and Disneyland to bring back its full slate of annual passes. They're basically saying that they're making too much money and they don't need annual pass holders. And in a way to kind of keep the crowd in check, they're going to probably not bring them back.
So the theory of locals being able to go there and spend money is actually not a real thing? Like, is it cost? Like, do locals go? I guess we should have some locals on the show.
We should have some locals on the podcast. But there was an interview that Bob Chapek did on one of these morning finance shows, which, by the way, they should never let Bob Chapek talk.
Pricing that not only does it maximize shareholder value, but enables us to provide a value to guests no matter what time of the year they want to come.
But a lot of people get frustrated when those prices go up. You get a lot of angry comments on Twitter, but it sounds like another pricing move might be in the works.
Well, it's all up to the consumer. If consumer demand keeps up, then we act accordingly. And if we see a softening, which we don't think we're going to see, then we can act accordingly as well. We're very flexible.
Why?
Because he just doesn't help the company in a good way when it comes to building rapport with the fans and the guests.
I have to admit, I've never heard him speak. I've just read articles about him and how a lot of people don't like him. I just have never heard him speak.
He does, in his defense, he does get a lot of the flack for every bad decision that Disney makes or what seems to be, in quotation marks, a bad decision that they make.
But that comes with the job.
Exactly. But Bob Iger didn't get any of that. And Josh D'Amaro, who runs the parks, doesn't get any of that. All kind of leads on Bob Chapek. But he did say...
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
Is it because, though, that you didn't know that Bob Iger was getting any kind of harsh feedback? Because nowadays with TikTok and all these social platforms that everybody's on, it's way easier to kind of talk negatively or positively about somebody and people finding out.
You know what it is? I think 2020 messed up a lot of things. And I think 2020, like for a lot of businesses, made Disney make decisions that they probably have wanted to do for a long time, be able to do and execute finally. And they did them all at one time.
Which was not necessarily a good idea.
No, definitely not. It's definitely not as a longtime fan or annual pass holder. They're not the decisions that are based to make those people happy. And Bob Chapek in this interview basically said that the company will raise prices as long as the demand is there. Basically saying that Disney World and Disneyland is so busy and they have such a need for tickets to go out, and they've raised prices and people have paid those prices, that as long as people continue to do that, Disney will continue to raise the prices to meet the demand.
Okay, well, back to this article. Disneyland and Disney World combined to bring in $5.4 billion in revenue for Disney's fiscal third quarter, more than double, up to 104% what the resorts rang up a year earlier. Segment operating income of $1.7 billion, that's billion with a B, continues the
$1 billion.
That's quite a bit. It takes me a minute to read the word billion because it doesn't process in my head because I just have never seen that kind of, not that I've seen a million, but anyway, continues the record pace of the high margin recovery at Disney's gated attractions. It's great news for Disney shareholders, but the same cannot be said about annual pass holders hoping for a return to the way things used to be at the parks that they grew up at. The House of Mouse is killing it now. It's making it happen with the reservation requirements, premium price access to expedite queues, which is that lightning lane, higher prices and just about everything, and a dearth of new annual passes to sell. I don't know if the reservation requirements is killing it.
No, here
Okay.
I was talking to somebody else about the new Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser hotel too, because that was something that people were excited for. And I went on the reservation system recently, and there's a lot of reservations available for the next couple months, which in previous months weren't available. Mm-hmm. Here's my thought: I think a lot of people couldn't go to Disney for a couple years, and all of a sudden they were able to go and travel and finally take that Disney trip. So right now, there's a huge demand for Disney because a lot of people couldn't go for 2 years. I think if you're a true Disney fan and you want to stick with Disney for the long haul, you just have to be patient a little bit. I think that demand will lessen over time. In a year or two from now, it'll go back to kind of the normal demand. And once people have gotten those trips that they had to keep postponing forever, they'll be going back to their regularly scheduled Disney trips of once a year. It won't be like so jam-packed.
Yeah, Disneyland is no longer selling annual passes to new fans. If anything, it seems as if the world's leading theme park operator has seller's remorse for the ones it did sell late last year. Disney referred to an, quote, unfavorable attendance mix, unquote, weighing on Disneyland's performance. A year ago, it didn't have any annual pass holders when it reopened a third of the way into the fiscal third quarter. Everyone had to pay for a single-day ticket. The company resumed annual passes in August, only to suspend them a few months later.
Now, they do sell the cheapest, and it says the scenario is slightly different in Disney World. The Florida resort is only selling its cheapest annual pass to new buyers that happen to be state residents. So you still can buy the cheapest annual pass if you are a Florida state resident for Disney World, but Disneyland you can't. Mm-hmm. Comments made during Wednesday's earnings call didn't make it seem as if Disney would be expanding its annual pass selling efforts anytime soon. It wants a favorable attendance mix. Now, what does that mean exactly? Favorable versus unfavorable?
I'm not sure. Favorable attendance mix, maybe like the fact that maybe the Disneyland guests that were locals didn't actually spend money.
Maybe they were saying that the favorable guests are like people like us who travel to Orlando or Disneyland who don't live in state and spend our whole time and money there.
Right.
We're favorable.
Oh, great.
That's awesome. The company feels that the park reservation system, as frustrating as it is for folks planning park trips, is a tool to help smooth out demand. Now, I don't know. I hate the reservation system. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that you can still go to Universal and just walk up to the gate and go in with your annual pass.
True.
I like that about it.
Right.
Disney has mentioned in back-to-back earnings calls that up to half of its guests are paying $15 for the Genie Plus system that provides access to faster-moving lines in select attractions. Half of them. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's not me.
Right.
Everything can change, of course. The economy can get so bad that Disney will need to be more aggressive in recruiting annual pass holders and ramp up its promotional activity. However, that doesn't seem to be in any near-term plans for the Disney Entertainment Company.
So, I mean, I remember when the economy was down, and it did seem like they were offering a lot more perks, and I think that it ebbs and flows in waves, so that's kind of maybe in the future.
Well, it stinks that you have to wish the economy goes down so that way you can afford and have the opportunity to go to Disney. Like you said, back in 2008, when we first really started to go, there was free dining, there was annual passes, there was not that crowded, the hotels were a lot cheaper. And that, if you think about it, back in 2008, the economy was kind of in a in a weird spot.
True. I'm not hoping. I'm just saying like that is the reality of it. You know,
Right.
whether it happens or not, that's the reality. But perhaps that's what the issue is in Disneyland. Like I'm thinking Disney World is so big that when the locals go, you're kind of, I don't want to say stuck because it's amazing when you're in the bubble, but you really got to eat on property. There's things to buy. In Disneyland, it's so small. You can essentially go in and out. It's super easy to go grab food from home if you're a local and then go to Disneyland for a few hours.
Yeah, and it did happen to be the case. When the few times we've been to Disneyland, many times we've been to Disneyland, you do notice that in the beginning of the day, it's a lot of tourists, and then towards the end of the day, that's when those locals start to come, and that's when the park did get rather busy.
Totally. Very busy. It's the opposite. I always say, like, Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom, the later it gets, the crowd thins out. Disneyland, I was not prepared, and I'm still not prepared because the opposite happens. The later it gets, the busier. Well, now with non-annual pass, not so much, but that is what changed the vibe there a little bit. And again, I'm going to go with that statement of maybe it's just not worth it. Why, as a business, why would you sell a pass that allows people to come in? Although, I don't know, maybe I'm going to get too deep into it, but like, it's pretty cool that Florida does it for their residents. I wish that California would do it for theirs.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who doesn't live in either state,
yeah, and we're sad about it,
right? It's kind of tough for us to be like, yay, for Florida residents, because when I'm not able to buy an annual pass because I don't live in Florida, it's sad.
Right.
But
yeah,
but we all know that hopefully things will change and they'll come back. I mean, the good news is Disney hopefully will reinvest the money that they're making into new attractions and new restaurants and pay cast members and new shows. And I hope that that's the case. Like, they take the revenues that they're making and use it in a positive way.
I think that the truth can be said a lot to the earlier statement about just things have been weird since 2020 in the sense of businesses and just things trying to kind of reinvent themselves or try to recoup a lot of what they've been doing wrong maybe and trying to change things. So I think, like you said, have a little patience, I think would be a true statement.
Yes, and you know what? Let's see what happens.
Okay.
We got to let it play out.
That's basically what I just said.
That's true. Thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. When do you think? I want to know. This is the question of the show. When do you think the annual passes are going to be coming back to Disney World and Land for outside state residents?
Maybe they'll announce it at the D23. They'll be like, this is what I miss about...
You know what? That's a funny thing you say that. There is the D23 coming up as we're recording this episode, so maybe they will announce it there.
They've got to do this D23. No pressure, Disney, but pressure here. If you're listening, if somebody's listening, anybody, share, like, and subscribe here. They have got to blow this out of the water. The D23 has got to be spectacular from start to finish because they have been under scrutiny for so much time. Like you said, Bob Chapek, like everything has been kind of weighing on their shoulders. They're not really doing a lot that's positive, or at least that's what the
perception of
positive for folks. They have got to, I wish I could, be a little fly in the room or not. I don't think we're going to the D23, but I really hope that they knock it out of the park because they really need to. I think that's going to save a lot of these folks that have been dedicated with them for so long.
Time will tell. We'll have to do a follow-up show after the D23.
All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to leave your comment for the question of the show. When do you think, if ever, Disney annual passes for both parks will be coming back? Let us know in the comments below. We're always monitoring those. And if you're watching or listening to this on the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in.
We're monitoring that frequency.
Yes. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.